Let's talk about your blood sugar. Blood sugar going too high, blood sugar going too low. Things I want you to think about is I want you to think about getting your blood sugar steady and rolling all through the day. Now, why would that matter? Because we need consistent fuel for our brain and our body all through the day so that we can feel consistent and we can feel sort of steady all day. So, one question is if you eat and you feel better, like maybe you were hangry before and you have a meal and you're like, "Ooh, I feel so relieved, I feel so much better." That tells me that you were hypoglycemic and then you ate a meal and you restored your blood sugar to normal. Now, your body uses this is like fuel. It's like a car having at least a half a tank of gas all the time. So if you're getting down to the red and you're running out of fuel, and then you eat and you barely save yourself and you come back with some energy, that's not a great way to run our body because that's not consistent fuel that's predictable, right? So you can get brain fog if you get low blood sugar. You can get shaky. You can feel anxious. You can feel really angry and have outbursts because you feel like, oh my gosh, I just don't feel good. I see this in a lot of women who are trying to lose weight. I see it in teenagers. I see it in people that just feel like they might have generalized anxiety, but a lot of times their blood sugar is really low. So that's something to consider. Does protein and fuel, more food, make you feel better? Now, we want your blood sugar to kind of roll, right? Now, what if you eat too many carbs and sugars and starches and your blood sugar goes high and then it kind of crashes low? What happened here? So, if you eat a big high starchy carby meal, this extra blood sugar has to go somewhere. So, it gets put into storage, which is long term storage in your liver, makes fatty liver, but that's stored fuel for later if you were fasting, and it goes onto your belly, right? So anytime that you have storage, you're going to get more belly fat. You're going to get more fat on your hips because that's stored fuel for later because you overate carbs. Now, how do you feel when you overeat carbs? I mean, when you have a real high blood sugar spike, you can feel anxious. You can feel just like agitated, but then afterwards, you feel exhausted. So this is like, oh my gosh, I ate all that pasta and now I feel super exhausted and I'm going to go take a nap. Well, your body needs that energy to take all this extra fuel and store it away into your liver and into your fatty tissue, right? So it's going to take that energy and it's going to put it into storing fat. So if you decide, like if you are a hunter and gatherer person from hundreds of years ago and you eat a ton and then you take a nap and you sleep and you have more fat, you can go for the next 3 days and you can utilize that fat because you're fasting. But we don't tend to fast as much as we used to. So things to think about, like, should we be fasting more? You should be looking at my friend Mindy Pelz's book. It's called Fast Like a Girl. She's got a great book. And she talks a lot about fasting and such and how to do that. How do we utilize that as a tool so that we can utilize all the extra fat stores that we have on our body? Now, what we really want though, is we want your blood sugar to be steady all day, just kind of consistent. It can rise and fall a little bit, but it needs to I really like blood sugar to be between, say, 75 or 80 and below 130. That's a great rolling area to be in so that you're not spiking, but you're not crashing. Now, what about these little continuous glucose monitors that I'm seeing around? They're amazing. So there's two of them that are out that anybody can order. And they're like under $50 for one. And so you can spend $100 and get two, which is great. So that you can have one is going to last you for 2 weeks. And then you have a month's supply of being able to kind of monitor your blood sugar. It's a really good tool to understand what's happening. And it goes into an app on your phone so that you can just watch your blood sugar 24/7. What's happening in the middle of the night? What's happening in the day? What's happening after certain meals, right? So we want to observe what's happening so that we can understand, what does it feel like when my blood sugar is too high? What does it feel like when my blood sugar is too low? Am I waking up shaking and anxious and not feeling good? Am I feeling exhausted after a meal? Oh, whoops, that's because I spiked my blood sugar. So these are all things that are really important for us to know about with our bodies so that we can know how to keep our blood sugar steady. Now, those CGMs, these continuous glucose monitors, are a really nice accountability partner so that you can be sort of accountable for what you're eating and know that, like, you're making sure that you're rolling and steady and you have consistent fuel. So let's talk about the foods that we should be eating to keep the blood sugar kind of rolling, right? So let's talk about like breakfast. We want to think about a savory breakfast because a savory breakfast is going to get you starting off the day super steady. You can do eggs, you can do sausage, we can do any kind of leftovers from last night. We can do meats and veggies, and those are really great meals to keep you super, super rolling and steady. Now, if you do just oatmeal in the morning with a little bit of honey and some berries, your blood sugar is going to spike. If you are doing a smoothie, fruit smoothie, I just want you to make sure you're wearing a continuous glucose monitor to make sure that you're not spiking your blood sugar. If you do things in a smoothie, if you put some berries and some fruit juice and maybe a little protein powder, you're going to spike your blood sugar. If you use oat milk and you use a lot of sugary fruits, you're going to spike your blood sugar. But you could do some berries, some avocado, some protein powder, a little base of water, and maybe that will help you to kind of stay steady and not spike your blood sugar. I mean, bananas are super spikers if you put them in your smoothie. So mangoes, all those really, really sugary fruits, really spiky. So we want to really observe what our blood sugar does after we eat certain meals. Now, let's talk about lunch. So if we're going to have a lunch and you're going to have a sandwich and you're going to eat all that bread with the meat and veggies or whatnot all together, you're probably going to spike your blood sugar because that's a lot of bread. But here's something to think about. What if you did a little salad and had a little veggie starter and then had deconstructed your sandwich and had the meat and have, the tomatoes, the lettuce, or whatever, and then have half of that bread, you're probably not going to spike your blood sugar. Other things that are super spiky, rice is very spiky. Breads are spiky, especially gluten-free. I'm gluten-free, so I get that. I mean, anything I do that's gluten-free is pretty spiky because it's usually rice flour. So we have to be careful. Now, if I'm going to have dessert, then the way I'm going to do that at dinner, I would have my veggies first, veggie starter, then a protein or a meat with some fat, like maybe it would have butter, olive oil, or olives. Maybe it's going to have some avocado in there. And then also, if you can put the fat, whatever fat you're going to put in there. And if you're going to do a carb, do it last and make sure it doesn't spike your blood sugar. If I'm going to do a dessert, then I'm going to forego the carb, or I'm going to do a very small carb, and then I'm going to do dessert right at the end of my dinner so that it's like we're building a salad bowl out of our stomach. And we line it with veggies, and then we're going to put protein in there with some fat, and then we're going to sprinkle in carbs on the top. And then the carbs are going to take a slow time to release because they're going to be at the pace of the veggies and the meats, right? But if we flip that over and we eat our bread first, like go to the restaurant and we're eating bread and butter, or we're eating chips and salsa, it's going to spike your blood sugar right away, right? And you're not going to have an opportunity to get the protein and the good veggies in. So think about how we do this. If we go to a Mexican restaurant, can we do chips and guacamole? I'll do a couple spoonfuls of guacamole first, then do a few chips, and then it won't spike my blood sugar. Maybe have some steak tacos. If you're going to have a margarita, have it toward the end. Don't have it at the beginning. We have to think about these things because whatever goes first into your stomach, if it's a carb or a sugar or a starch, it's going to spike your blood sugar and then it's all over, right? And then it's hard to get that blood sugar down because it's like that's what you released first, okay? So you want to think about these things as far as the order of foods and how you eat it. Now, let's talk about blood sugar and how it affects you in the middle of the night. How many of you wake up in the middle of the night and you don't know why you wake up? You always wake up between 2 and 3 and you have a hard time going back to sleep, or maybe you wake up multiple times. So that's usually nocturnal hypoglycemia. So I want you to get that blood sugar monitor and see what happens to you in the middle of the night. So this is what happens to most people. They'll eat early. Maybe they eat 5 or 6 or so, and then they go to bed at 10, 11. And then by the time they get to 3 a.m., they've run out of blood sugar. These are people with kind of unsteady blood sugar that have a hard time fasting. So with these people, I'll tend to have them do a protein and a fat, maybe like an hour before they go to bed, just a little bit, like maybe a handful of nuts or a couple spoonfuls of not sweetened almond butter, or maybe they'll have a little bit of dinner, a little bit of a chicken, a little bit of an avocado, or maybe one scrambled egg or a hard-boiled egg with some olive oil on top, something like that. And then all of a sudden they have fuel to get them all the way through the night. So what happens when you run out of blood sugar in the middle of the night is your blood sugar drops. And then your brain says, I need more blood sugar. So your body goes into the liver to pull out stored blood sugar and dump it out. But it does that by way of adrenaline. So all of a sudden you get an adrenaline spike at 3 a.m. and it's like, wait a second, now I'm awake. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to see if that is the mechanism. Because if you did a little protein before you went to bed and you got through the night and you didn't wake up, that's our answer. It's nocturnal hypoglycemia. So we want to think about, hey, we can have our early dinner. Maybe we have a small little protein snack before bed, and then you get through the night and then you have a lot more restful sleep. Okay. So these are things I want you to think about. I want you to think about it, getting a continuous glucose monitor. The monitors are called, there's a Lingo and there's a Stello, two different companies. They're both the same price point. I'd have you get two. They both work with Android and iPhones, so that's great. So you can like just start watching what's happening with your blood sugar and figuring out how this is rolling for me. I mean, I was shocked. My blood sugar was spiking all the time. And I had no idea that it was spiking. I had no idea that that was happening to me. So when you have an aging body, you want to be careful about not spiking your blood sugar too much, because when the blood sugar's up and the insulin's up and the inflammation is up, that is how we age. That is how we age our brain. It's how we trigger Alzheimer's. Now, they're saying that Alzheimer's for a lot of people is diabetes type 3. So we want to be very careful about not spiking your blood sugar and creating so much sugar in your brain that it actually damages your brain. So you want to think about like steady energy, steady fuel, trying not to spike your blood sugar, trying to get yourself sleeping better through the night. So I want you to think about these hacks. And if you need some help, reach out. I'm happy to help.